There's this massive, really heavy narrative sitting on top of the entire business world right now.
Hmm.
It's the arms race story. It basically tells us that artificial intelligence is, well, it's exclusively a game for the giants.
Right. You need the billion-dollar budget, the huge server farms.
Exactly. An army of PhDs just to even get a seat at the table. It's the Goliath narrative.
It is. The idea that scale is a prerequisite for entry.
And if you're a small business owner or, even just someone watching from the sidelines, it's so easy to feel like you're just a spectator.
Just waiting to be disrupted by Amazon or Google.
Yeah, whoever wins the war.
Huh.
But today, we are going to completely, well, dismantle that assumption.
And we're not just doing it with, optimism. We're doing it with hard data.
We are diving deep into a document called Research Spotlight, AI and Business Small Firms Closing In.
And this comes from the SBA Office of Advocacy, written by regulatory economist Robert Press back in September 2025.
And the backbone of this whole thing is the Census Bureau's Business Trends and Outlook Survey, the BTOS.
Which is really important because BTOS isn't just a one-off poll. They've been tracking this data over time, right up to August 2025.
So we can actually see the movement, not just a snapshot.
Exactly.
And the mission for this deep dive is to show you a trend that is, it's honestly shocking. Small businesses aren't just scrambling to catch up.
No, in some very specific tactical ways, they're actually winning.
And later on, we're going to get into a concept that I love. It's called the Steinbeck paradox.
This is my favorite part of the whole report.
It uses, 1930s economic theory to explain why AI might cause mass layoffs at the big companies.
But actually create a hiring boom for small businesses.
It sounds totally backward, I know. But stick around because when we break down the math, it makes perfect sense.
It really does.
But let's start with the landscape, the adoption curve. ChatGPT dropped in November 2022.
That was the starting gun.
Right. And we know individuals picked it up fast, but businesses, they're usually like turning an aircraft carrier, they're slow.
Usually, yes. But look at the acceleration here. If we go back just 6 months before this report was published, so early 2025,
Okay.
there was a very clear gap. You had about 6.3% of small businesses using AI.
And just so we're clear, small here means fewer than 250 employees.
Correct. So 6.3% of small businesses, compare that to 11.1% of large businesses.
So the big guys were using it almost twice as much.
Nearly 1.8 times more, yeah. That tracks with the arms race idea. They have the money, they buy the toys first.
But then something happened in just 6 months.
The gap started collapsing. By August 2025, small business usage jumped to 8.8%.
And I know 8.8% still sounds like a small number in isolation.
It does, but in economic terms, that is a massive leap in such a short time. The trajectory suggests small firms are now only about 1 year behind large firms in adoption.
1 year. That's, in the history of technology, think about websites or cloud storage, a 1-year lag is basically nothing.
It's a blink of an eye. And here's the really interesting part.
Okay.
While small business usage was spiking, large firm usage actually flattened out. It even dipped slightly in some of the metrics.
Wait, why would the big companies stop using it or slow down?
They didn't stop, but they hit what I'd call the bureaucracy wall. Big companies have legal departments, compliance officers, data governance boards. They have to digest the technology. They have to write a policy before they can deploy the tool.
Whereas small businesses...
They just sign up and start working.
Which brings us to the weirdest data point in this whole report. It's this U-shaped curve. I looked at this chart and I really thought it was a typo.
It's not a typo. It's what you could call the micro-business anomaly.
So explain this. Because the data shows that the absolute smallest businesses, the ones with fewer than 5 employees, are using AI more than companies with, say, 50 employees.
It seems so counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But then you put yourself in the shoes of that business owner.
Okay.
If you have 50 employees, you probably have a marketing manager. You have a receptionist, maybe an accountant. You have human capital to solve problems.
What if you're a team of 3?
If you're a team of 3, or a freelancer, or a mom and pop shop, you are wearing every single hat. You're the CEO and the janitor.
Right.
For you, AI becomes what the military calls a force multiplier. It lets one person do the work of 5.
So the urgency is it's higher.
Exactly. For a mid-sized company, AI is an optimization. For a micro business, it's survival. It lets them punch way, way above their weight class.
And to put this speed in perspective, The report compares this whole thing to the broadband rollout.
Yeah, back in 2004.
Which, for some of our listeners, is going to sound like ancient history.
The dark ages. Back then, we had a massive digital divide. Large enterprises had T1 lines, near universal broadband.
That's small businesses.
Only 48% had high-speed internet. And get this, 27%, more than 1 in 4, had no internet access at all.
Can you even imagine running a business today with zero internet?
Impossible. But that gap lasted for years. It stratified the economy. The point this report makes is that we are not seeing that with AI.
The barrier to entry isn't digging a fiber optic cable to your building.
No, it's just opening a browser tab.
So the access is there. The tools are there.
Yeah.
But I want to know what they're doing with it. Because I assume, Amazon is using AI to predict global supply chain logistics. My local bakery probably isn't doing that.
No, probably not. But the volume of use cases is surprisingly similar. The report tracked about 18 different categories.
Okay.
Large firms use about 2.1 of them on average. Small firms use 2.0.
That's neck and neck. I'm actually surprised it's that close.
It is, but the strategy is totally different. And this is where small businesses have a secret weapon. They are actually leading, meaning a higher percentage of them use it in marketing automation.
Marketing. Why marketing?
Because it's the engine of growth. But it's also really time-consuming, and it can be expensive to outsource. Small businesses are using AI to write their newsletters, generate social media captions, target ads, create graphics.
Well, they're using it to get loud.
It's their megaphone. Precisely.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, where do you think the large firms are winning?
I'm going to guess the boring stuff.
The structural stuff. The biggest gap is in robotic process automation, or RPA.
Okay.
There's a 16.7% gap there. Large firms are also ahead in data analytics and in chatbots.
Let's pause on RPA for a second. Robotic process automation. That sounds like a factory floor, but we're talking about software, right?
Think of it as a digital clerk. RPA is the software that takes an invoice from an email, reads the number, opens an Excel sheet, pastes the number, and then opens the accounting software and pays it.
Just automating the repetitive back-office drudgery.
Exactly. And the reason small businesses are lagging there
is hard to set up.
It's hard. It requires integration. You have to hook the AI into your legacy systems, your databases, your security protocols. You usually need an IT team for that.
Right. You can't just ask ChatGPT to do my payroll integration in 5 seconds.
Yet, anyway. So the big guys are using AI to optimize infrastructure. The little guys are using it to generate sales.
And there's a cost element here that we have to talk about, the zero investment phenomena.
I know. I laughed when I read this part.
It feels like getting something for nothing.
It almost is. The data shows that 50% half of small firms using AI report making zero capital investment.
Wow. No software licenses, no new hardware, no consultants, no training.
They're just using the free tiers. Compare that to large firms where only 40% say they spend nothing. The big companies are spending money on enterprise licenses, on training staff, on secure servers.
Small businesses are just winging it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's a double-edged sword. It shows how democratic the tech is. You don't need money to play. But it also reveals a big training gap. Small firms are significantly behind in training their people.
Which means you have employees pasting sensitive client data into public chatbots because nobody ever told them not to.
Exactly. It's called shadow IT. When the boss doesn't pay for the tool, the employees use whatever they can find. It's nimble, but it's really risky.
Okay, so we have 8.8% of small businesses using this stuff. That leaves over 90% who are not. So what is the holdup?
You'd assume it's cost, right? Or maybe fear of the technology. Skynet is coming.
Or just, I don't know how to log in.
But the data says no. The number one barrier reported by a staggering 82% of businesses with fewer than 5 employees
82%.
is the belief that AI is not applicable to their business.
Not applicable. That's it.
That's it. It dwarfs every other reason. Lack of technical knowledge was only 6.7%. Privacy concerns, 6.3%. The vast majority simply look at AI and say, I don't need that.
Why? Is it because they think AI is only for, tech companies?
That's the myth, the whole blue-collar versus white-collar divide. The construction company thinks, we pour concrete, we don't need algorithms.
But that's not what the data shows.
Not at all. The report looked at the data across industries, and outside of the information sector, there is almost no correlation between industry type and usage.
So a construction firm is just as likely or unlikely to use it as a law firm.
Statistically, yes. It is not about what you do. It's about how you view productivity.
So that construction firm could use AI to optimize their driving routes or automate their bid proposals.
Or schedule their crews. The not applicable label is usually just a failure of imagination.
That's a harsh truth. It's not that the tool doesn't work, it's that you don't see how to hold it.
Exactly.
All right, let's pivot to the heavy hitter. The concept that circles back to jobs. Because the headline fear is always that AI replaces people.
The Steinbeck paradox.
The report explicitly references John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, which is not a book I usually associate with modern tech reports.
It's a powerful analogy, though. In the book, the tractors arrive on the farms, and the tractors are undeniably better.
Right. More efficient, they don't get tired.
But that efficiency displaces the tenant farmers. The machine replaces the man.
And that's the fear. The AI tractor is coming for your job.
But the report uses this piece of economic theory, it's called the Hicks-Marshall laws of derived demand, to argue that for small businesses, the tractor might actually require more farmers.
Okay, you're going to have to walk us through derived demand without turning this into a college lecture. How does that work?
It all boils down to two words: market share, or, if you want the technical term, price elasticity.
Let's stick with market share.
Okay. Think about a giant corporation, let's say a massive soda company. They already sell soda to basically everyone on Earth who wants one.
Their market is saturated.
It is. Their demand is inelastic, meaning even if they make the soda cheaper, people aren't going to start drinking 10 gallons of it a day.
Right, there's a ceiling.
So if AI helps that giant corporation become 20% more efficient, they can't sell 20% more soda. They don't need to produce more. So what do they do with that efficiency?
They cut costs. They fire people.
Right. They produce the same amount with fewer workers. For the giant, the tractor replaces the farmer.
Okay, so now do the small business.
A small business, let's say a local craft soda brand, has a tiny sliver of the market. Their demand is highly elastic.
Meaning they have room to grow.
Huge room to grow. So if they can use AI to lower their costs or improve their distribution or market themselves better,
They can steal customers from the giant.
and because they are small, the potential for that growth is massive. So if AI makes them 20% more productive, they don't fire people. They use that productivity to lower prices or increase quality.
Which brings in more customers.
And to serve those new customers.
They have to hire more people.
That's the paradox. The exact same technology that causes layoffs at a Fortune 500 company can cause a hiring boom at a Main Street business.
That completely flips the narrative. It's not about the robot. It's about the size of the pie you're trying to eat.
And the data in this report backs it up. They asked employers about their expectations. Small employers are the most likely to expect AI to increase their employment needs, and they are the least likely to expect it to decrease employment.
And the large firms were the opposite.
Much more likely to predict staff cuts, yes.
Wow. This feels like a call to action. If you are a small business owner, AI isn't a way to fire your staff. It's how you're going to be able to afford to hire more staff.
It's an offensive weapon, not a defensive one. If you don't use it, you aren't saving jobs. You're just letting the competitor down the street who is using it take your market share.
And eventually that will put you out of business.
Right.
So if I'm listening to this and I'm convinced, I want to move from the not applicable group to the hiring boom group. But where do I start? We mentioned a resource gap.
It is a problem. The report critiques the current landscape because the help is really scattered. It's a patchwork.
Where can people look?
Well, the Small Business Administration, the SBA, is trying to centralize this stuff. They have AI guides now. And NIST, that's the National Institute of Standards and Technology, released an AI risk management framework.
Is the NIST stuff readable for a normal human?
It's dense. It's very thorough, but it's technical.
Yeah.
It is the gold standard for safety, though. If you want to avoid that shadow IT problem, you look at NIST.
What about local help?
That's often better. The report highlights the New York Small Business Development Center. They're running specialty programs on AI for finance, for operations, for marketing.
So you should check your local SBDC.
Definitely. But the bottom line is nobody is going to come knock on your door and install this for you. The onus is on the business owner to go find the information.
So let's bring this deep dive in for a landing. We've covered a ton of ground.
We have.
To summarize, small businesses are catching up to the giants at a speed we haven't seen since the internet. They're doing it mostly with free tools, focusing on marketing and looking for growth.
And contrary to all the doom and gloom, the economic math suggests that for small firms, AI is a job creator, not a job killer.
But the biggest enemy isn't the cost. It isn't the learning curve. It's that number, 82%.
The not applicable crowd.
And I want to leave our listeners with a final thought on that, a challenge, really.
Let's hear it.
I want you to go back in your mind to, say, the year 2005. Imagine you're talking to a taxi dispatcher. He's got his radio, his paper logs, his whole fleet of cars.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask him, hey, is digital app-based geolocation technology applicable to your business?
He would have laughed you out of the room.
He would have said, no. We drive cars. We don't write code. That's for Silicon Valley.
And then Uber and Lyft showed up and ate his lunch.
Exactly. The biggest barrier isn't the technology. It's the imagination of the business owner. If you are sitting there thinking AI isn't applicable to your industry, you have to ask yourself a terrifying question.
Is there a competitor in a garage somewhere who thinks it is applicable?
Because if there is, they are about to disrupt your entire livelihood.
Yeah.
That not applicable label is just a blind spot waiting to be exploited.
Yeah.
So look at your workflow this week. Don't ask, can I afford AI? Ask yourself, can I afford to think it doesn't apply to me?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you in the next one.